I just wanted to ask you a few questions of just about your experience, just being a new musician in a new city. So what were some hard lessons you had to learn, going through that process?
Oh man, there was so much. But basically, what motivated me um, was one that I didn't have anything solid on the other end. So like just like no income, like unless I hustled for that income. And you got to get real creative, and you got to just be very. You got to work your tail off. I mean, when I first came to town, I made it my business inside of like a month to a month and a half to learn all of the kind of people. I make contact with all the people in the scene that were obviously respected and doing well, um, like very quickly. So one of the first things I would recommend is like places you can do that is your jam sessions. We all know them. We kind of have a love hate relationship with them, depending on where you're at in your matriculation. If you're like, just going into college or coming out of high school, maybe you really love jam sessions. If you're done with college and you've been in the professional world for a while, you're probably like, jam sessions. But they serve a very um, good purpose. One, obviously, for your development as a musician to you know um, perform and play tunes in front of an audience. But from a business standpoint, it gives you an opportunity to network. You know, and I know it could kind of get it could kind of get negative. Like you shouldn't necessarily think about it like, oh, I'm going out to this jam session to network. But I mean, it's just something that will organically happen if you go out. You're going to meet people. You're going to meet people, and if you're going to a jam session, you're going to meet other musicians in the scene, and it's an opportunity for them to hear what you do, and an opportunity for you to hear what they do. And that's one of the first things I would recommend. Just go to a jam session as soon as possible when entering a new town, so that way you can kind of introduce yourself to that town, you know, and try to find a good jam session too, because there may be a lot of different jam sessions, but try to find out which one is like the one that everybody's like, yeah, you want to make the Monday night hang at blah blah blah, versus like, you know, you might hear about another one. It's like, yeah, that one's cool. That was cool. I go out to that every now and again. But the one that everybody's like, yeah, you want to make that hang, then definitely make that one.
Dope. So, going off of that, what's your stance on playing for exposure or playing for free?
One of the first things that comes to mind is who is it for and who is it with? Because if it's with a group of musicians that you enjoy playing with, and it's for like a worthy cause, like I don't know, the first thing popped in my head is ALS or something, something like that, breast cancer, whatever. Who knows? Maybe um, for your church, or if it's for a cause like that, for an organization that you're affiliated with, or that you really respect their mission and what they're doing, then cool. Like that's not the worst thing in the world. And also, if it's with musicians that you know and love to play with, and you have a really great relationship with, then it's definitely gonna be cool because you're gonna have a good time. Now, somebody hits you up that you never heard from before, um, that you don't have any really real relationship with, like somebody they got your name and number from somebody, um, and it's for an organization that you've never really heard about, or for somebody that you never heard, and then they're asking you to do this free gig for the promise of exposure and stuff like that. That's kind of a case by case basis. You could look at it in the macro as a larger picture, like, well, going off the last question, if I'm new to town, I'm not really in a position to be super selective. My goal right now is to get as many eyes on me as possible and meet as many people as possible. So if this is going to be an opportunity that could provide that, even though it's free, it's going to be paying me in other ways, by meeting people. So that's a case of where, like, okay, I might take that free gig. Now, if you establish yourself a little bit, you've been doing this for a little while, people know who you are, people know your worth and what you have to bring to the table. Um, and then you get a call like that, and it's from, like I said, it's people you don't know, it's for an organization you're not that familiar with, and they're talking about exposure, then it'll probably be an easy, like, I have to decline that. So that's how I would kind of figure them out. It's case by case. Look at the big picture. Look at what it could help you accomplish overall. Look at the goal of the organization that you're going to be partnering with, or person you're going to be partnering with to put on the event. And lastly, look at the musicians that are going to be on the gig with you, because if there's some people that you don't know, they could not sound that good, and if they don't, it's going to be work, and it's not going to be fun, and you're going to hate that you took that gig.
Right.
You wish it paid, because at least if it paid well, you can be like, man, this is work, but I'm getting paid to be here, so hey, whatever.
Exactly. How would you determine your value as a musician, as a new musician in a new city?
You kind of got to build it from scratch. I mean, even if your value is high, me being able to play at a proficient level and being good, and maybe some people refer to me great, whatever. It didn't happen overnight. It's not like, I'm obviously a better musician now than when I first got to the town, but at the same time, like, I was a pretty good musician when I got to town, but nobody really knew who I was here. Mm-hmm. So I can't just come in and be, demanding a certain thing if people don't really know who I am. So, it takes time, and the market will kind of tell you, if you can, develop some relationships with people that have been in the scene for a while, and just try to get a feel for what does this gig at this club typically pay, or what is a corporate gig in this town usually pay. Just try to find out, just from conversations, and, when you do get work or gigs with other people, and then you can kind of base your rates off of that, a kind of mix of that and your worth. And then, obviously each year, you should probably increase your pricing, because, everything else is increasing, Exactly. The dollar is worth less and less, so the prices are going up more and more. So it's like our prices got to go up a little bit too,
Right. I was watching a quick clip of Grant Cardone. You know who he is?
Yeah.
And he was saying there's only two ways that you get paid. You either underpaid or you're overpaid. And he was like, all my life I've been, underpaid, not underappreciated and under-respected and all this stuff. But as time goes on, and just like you said, as you get into a certain spot, then you're able to do less work and you're overpaid, and you're like, man, they're actually paying me to do this, paying me this much to do this much work, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
And I find that happens a lot, man. Mm-hmm. Actually, the better gigs, they're less work. Like the top paying gigs, you be like, that's it. You're gonna pay me that for 3 songs? Wow. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then the gigs slaving, they be like, okay, the sound check is at 2 p.m. and the gig is from 6 to 10. And it's like, y'all gonna take my whole day for this? Right. So it's crazy.
3 rehearsals.
Right. That's the other thing. Ask questions. I've learned that.
Yes.
Man, it's huge.
Yes.
One of the first things to ask when somebody calls you for an opportunity, first, thank them for reaching out to you. Maybe find out, if you don't know them, how they got your information, so that way you can go back and thank the person for recommending you for that opportunity. Next, thank the person who called you, let them know that you really appreciate them reaching out to you. And then when they tell you about what it is, usually, if not in the first sentence, if they don't mention compensation, I usually follow that up very quickly. I say, sounds like a great opportunity. I really appreciate you reaching out to me for it. What's the compensation, or what does it pay? Boom. As soon as they tell me that, I'm like, okay, then I decide, I'm like, based on, what we just talked about, I'm like, maybe this is a little bit low, or okay, this is acceptable, or what have you. And then from there, once you get that, the particulars of the gig, I would find out, ask questions about, if there's rehearsals involved, and if so, how many and where. You want to find out where, because I mean, the spot could be way far away from you, and that's gas money or transportation costs to get that. And so that can help you factor in, if they're paying you $300 for the gig, but the rehearsal spot is 2 hours away. I mean, maybe you might like, hey, can you guys do $350 for the gig? To compensate you for the gas. See how many rehearsals there are, and then also ask when remuneration, compensation, money, whatever you want to call it, will be dispersed. Would it be given at the gig, where you get the check or the cash or the money order, or whatever form of payment, where you get it that night, that day, where you have to wait? This is huge as a band leader, because I like to let my guys, I want to let them know as soon as possible all the information. Like, hey, we booked a gig at the such and such. Can you do it? Blah, blah, it pays this. Okay, I'll have the money for you that day, or there's a wait on the bread. Now, just because there's a wait on the bread doesn't mean a cat is going to necessarily turn on a gig or anything, but it allows a musician to better plan for the future.
Right.
If I know I'm doing a gig on the 15th, but I'm going to have to wait a week for the bread from that, okay, I'll do the gig. I know I'm already going to have to wait a week for the bread. Cool, I can plan my finances accordingly. But there's nothing worse than, doing all the, things you have to do inside of the month. You get to the 15th, and you had to, maybe it's a nice paying gig. And you're like, okay, good, man, it's going to be great, man. I can use this toward my rent or my car payment that's coming up, that's due on the 17th, and, you're like, oh, there's a wait on the money. They tell you that at the gig, and you're like, wow, because that would influence your decision making earlier in the month, so that you can make sure you made your car payment or what have you,
Exactly.
So I've definitely learned that over time. Ask as many questions as you possibly can. That you may come off as like a little bit much to deal with, like, oh, this guy, or this girl, but it's worth it, I mean, try to do it diplomatically. Don't turn anybody off with like, how's this? How we do that? No, when is this? When is that? But, it's okay to ask questions if somebody wants you to be involved in something, because at the end of the day, once you accept, that's your name, that's your reputation. And if you just back out on them last minute because you don't really like the terms, then, that's your reputation on the line. And then that can hurt you a lot, because then cats are spreading nonsense about your, reputation. Like, man, don't hire this cat, man. He canceled on me last minute, blah, 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 blah. You don't want that.
Yeah. So from our last interview, we talked about a skill that musicians need to develop more as an entrepreneur, basically. So what might be another skill that a musician has to develop more?
Be easy to work with. Huge. And I would say this so much, is to be a joy to work with, like if you're naturally kind of gifted or funny or kind of quirky or whatever, play to your strengths, like if you're naturally kind of like that, and you have that in you, and people kind of laugh, and you kind of naturally a funny person, then don't hide that necessarily on a gig. Let them know that you're very serious about your musicianship, and you're very prepared. But also, when you get on the gig, people like performing with other people that are just like good people to be around, good energy. And so a lot of times, we get so focused on, oh man, I got the call, I got the gig to play with such and such. But anybody can really get the call if they're at a certain level. But it's if you get the call back. Yeah. And a couple of those things, obviously you got to have, done a good job to get a call back. But the other thing is, how was your attitude? Were you on time? Were you prepared? And so those things, I think, stick out to me right away. It's just be a joy to work with, go above and beyond if you can. Where I recently had one of these examples that sticks out in my mind is the drummer Terry Gully, who lives in Atlanta. He came out here to California and did a gig, and this cat out here put the band together. And I already knew Terry from, just being on the scene. And actually, when I was still in school, I did this camp that he taught at, like one of those jazz workshops. And I remember just having a lot of respect for his musicianship. And I was so excited that I got the call to work with somebody of his caliber. And so he sent us the music ahead of time so we could, prepare and share it. And what I did is, because some of his music is kind of like, it's odd meter and it's kind of difficult. So I was like, all right, and for me to be the most comfortable, I need to probably just like memorize this stuff, like so I can have the best chance of being comfortable. And so I did for a few songs, and not even to like try to impress him or anything like that, for my comfort level, so that I could be more free on the gig. And I mean, he noticed that right away. Like, like I think we were in sound check or whatever. He was like, "Man, thank you so much for taking. Man, you memorized the songs." Man. He's like, that really left an impression on him. Yeah. And then another time he came out here, he knows that I live in San Diego, and the rehearsal was in LA. He was like, I know it might be kind of a drag to be trying to make it up here on a Friday, blah 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 blah, for this rehearsal. So don't worry about it. Just come to the sound check the next day. And I drove up anyway and made the rehearsal, because I'm like, I respect your musicianship. I want any opportunity that I have to work with you. I want to be there. I'm there. So I think things like that really leave an impression on people. And now, I'm top of mind for him when he wants to use a trumpet player, and I'm grateful and honored for that. But it was little things like that I think really allowed me to develop that relationship with him. And another thing, when I was in Atlanta, doing another show, I called him, let him know I was in town, not on some like, can you do this gig for me? Just like, hey, I was in town doing this other gig. If you're here or you're around, man, I'd love to grab lunch with you. Building relationships with people and fostering those relationships are important too.
How important are relationships in people in our line of work?
They're probably like the number one thing, honestly, because people want to play with people, like I said, that are cool people. And, you want to play with, like your homies or your boys or, your girl, like you want to play with people that you like to be around. So if you got a good relationship, if it's going to come down to, if it's two trumpet players and it's going to come down to somebody that you know really well, you have a good relationship with, he's kind of like your boy, or somebody else that is a good player, and that could do the gig, a good job on the gig as well, you're probably going to pick the person you have a better relationship with, just because, that's the relationship you have. So, like, relationships are everything,
Last time we spoke, you talked about the importance of emailing and when to email. Is there any other tip that you can give us?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep the first initial email brief. Don't give these people your whole life story in the first email. Because first, you got to think, they get inundated with a lot of requests, especially if they're a booking person at such and such. They could get hundreds of emails or thousands of emails a week. Who knows? If it's a really popular place or venue or whatever. So keep your emails as concise and brief as possible. Still get your point across, but keep them brief as possible. What helps with this, I found, is, whatever you're describing your email, what you're looking for, try to hyperlink things or leave links, to your press kit or your website inside of your email. And basically in your email, direct them to links or hyperlinks inside of the email to where they can find out more information about a specific thing that you kind of briefly mentioned in the email. So that way your email is very, concise and to the point. The other thing I think people should pay attention to is, like, even spacing makes a difference. Like when you send out an email, maybe have hello, Barbara, comma, drop down a line, leave a space between hello, Barbara, comma, and drop down a line, start your sentence or whatever you're going to say. Then maybe drop down another line and continue on, because visually that looks a lot cleaner, looks a lot better on the eye. And if you were to just glance at, you could kind of, it doesn't look like there's a big paragraph where you got to be like searching through everything that they're saying. And one of the last things I would offer is try, if you can, to end your email with a question, because psychologically, when you end an email with a question, if a person reads that, they feel like they have to get back. They feel more inclined to get back to you. It's like, when do you think will be a good time to talk to you, or what availability do you have in the month of such and such, or whatever your question is. Try to make it related to your request. But if you leave on a question, that will kind of spawn them to prompt you.
Nice.
I mean, spawn back to you. Yeah.
You mentioned quite briefly a press kit. For those that don't know, what is a press kit, and what are some other tools and other items they should have as a musician related to that?
Back in the day, they used to do this in physical form, and they used to actually put all this stuff that I'm about to mention in folders. But that's obviously very clunky and a lot more expensive. And now we have so many great websites out there, or aggregators, that you can build websites literally for free, and you can make a very, very professional looking press kit without any knowledge of HTML. Really, all you need to do is just drag and drop your your items, and then go from there. But your press kit is just that. Obviously, your press kit, you want to have press. So I just pulled up my own press kit just so I can make sure I hit all the points. So my own press kit, I have a section for my bio. Your bio, explains who you are, what you've done up to this date, and maybe ends with what you're currently embarked upon, or what you're planning to release, or maybe some very big opportunity that you're about to embark on with another musician or your own band or whatever. So you definitely want to include that. Include two things with the bio: a long form bio and a short bio. Hugely important, because if you got like a really long bio, there are some instances where they just want a little quick, little blurb. They want to just kind of get to the point. So make sure that you have both of those things. So obviously your long form bio may start back to like, how you got it, how you started on your instrument, where you grew up and stuff like that. So your short bio isn't going to do that. You don't have time for that. Your short bio is the quick stabs, the biggest opportunity, the biggest gigs that you had, or the most well-known people that you work with, any awards that are very, noteworthy. You want to make sure you touch upon those in your short bio. And, because it's got to be quick and it's got to get to the point. The next thing for your press kit is the press. So that's going to be any articles and any type of good press that you have. Now, what I would recommend, and I do this often, not out of narcissism, but, sometimes stuff comes up, Google yourself. A lot of times you may find that such and such from the blah, blah, blah Tribune wrote a little blurb on your performance at the Cat Daddy, down the street. Who knows? And if it's positive, obviously you want to keep positive reviews in your press kit, then you can use it, and, you can either screenshot the page or the article or whatever, or maybe take a quote that you like from that article, and then link the rest of it. Take the link from the page and make sure you link it up so where they can click on that little quote, and it'll take them to the full article. So the next thing in the press kit is video. A lot of times, and this is becoming more and more popular, even over just audio, because they want to see how you look on stages, especially if you're applying for doing a festival gig. If you have any video of you performing at a festival, you definitely want to have that in there, because you want the people that are looking at your press kit to actually see you already playing at a venue like that they have, like a festival, whatever, what have you. So make sure you have that. Make sure it's concise as well. You don't want your videos to be too lengthy. So maybe something that's like 15 to 20 minutes long, maybe not the way to go. So 3 to 8 minutes, and even with some of mine, I know I gotta, I want to get some more really clean, updated shots and video. And so the other thing is with the video is try to make it the highest quality as you possibly can. So what we're doing, the era that we're in now is it's like everybody has access to, like really high digital quality images and video. And so that speaks well to your brand. Like you don't want a video of somebody's cell phone that's very grainy and, it just misrepresents your brand as a musician and it won't serve you well. But if you have a very high quality 4K video where it's done really well, recorded really well, even if you had to pay somebody to record a gig and there's nice transitions and shots and nice editing, all of that looks, they pay attention to that. They're like, wow, I've never heard of this person, but by looking at a video like that, that really draws a person in. This person must be somebody of note if their video, presentation looks this good. So that's huge. So make sure your video presentation is on point as you possibly can. And that's constantly evolving, but just make sure that's high quality. Make sure you got your top songs, recorded. And you might just have to invest in, having somebody come out and record a gig or two of you every now and again, just to keep up to date. The next thing is obviously your music. Same thing, get high quality audio files. Your music, you may want to include, anywhere from 1 to 5, or I say like 2 to 5, of your songs, of your best songs, what you guys do that kind of represent your range and what you do. Next is the press photos. Hugely important to have some clean, high-res, updated images in your press kit.
Now, why might press photos be important, especially at high resolution?
High res in general, if they're going to make maybe a flyer or any type of promotional thing, if you take a grainy image and you blow it up, then it's going to become very obvious very quickly that it's not a very high resolution image, and it's just going to make you look very amateur. So, yeah. You don't want that. So try to have your images look as high res as you possibly can. And a note on that, if there's an image or something that you like to particularly have them feature for that, or you just want to be aware of which one they're using, make sure you put that either in your contract or make sure you state that up front before they put out any promotional materials. Just like, hey, before you put out any promotional materials, could you please, run what you plan to promote, like the flyer that they created or whatever promotional thing, run it by you to make sure that they're representing you in the right way. Have a range of, like, don't just have one, try to have at least, I would say like 3 to 6 that the person could choose from, and maybe link it up to where they can download the high res image as opposed to have to right click and save the image, because that's going to degrade the quality. So make sure you have that. Then last thing is booking. Make sure you have how they can book you. Whether if they're going through a management agency or something to book you, or you have somebody representing you, or it's yourself, make sure you have that contact information, that email, that phone number, where they can get in contact with you if they're interested in going forward and booking you. So that's kind of like the essentials for any press kit. Now, from there, you can decide to include other stuff. Like one of the things that, since I'm also an educator, I have an education tab on my press kit, and it just allows people that are interested in in bringing me to their organization to present an educational program. It allows me to, outline exactly the programs that I offer, the costs associated with that, and the details of each program. So I have that, and I also have which not necessary, but I thought it looked kind of cool to have it in my press kit, is my discography. What CDs am I on? And the way I organize that is almost like a slideshow. It is a slideshow of each CD cover, each album cover of images, and I thought it looked very nice and very clean. So, when they go to that section of my press kit, they can see, oh, he's on Water, Gregory Porter, or oh, he's on this CD with Kathy Cousins, oh, he's on this, blah, 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 blah. And so that kind of showcases, what you do as well. And I think that's about it. Oh, actually, with the education as well, we talked about earlier with the videos, of you performing. But if you're doing education or anything like that, then you want to include some videos of you educating. That's important as well in your press kit, if that's how you're presenting yourself as an educator as well. Or at least in your press kit, somewhere you can link them to where they could go see, whether it be your YouTube channel or whatever, where they can see the educational videos that you do.
All great information, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Again, where can we follow you and learn more about you?
CurtisTaylor.net.
Well, Mr. Taylor, thank you so much again for your time and your awesome tips. For those of you who are watching this, please go ahead and subscribe to his channel. Go follow him everywhere that he is. Go to his website. And thank you for watching. Peace.